Hey, it's Wolf, and in this video we're going to go into update distance. So I've talked about it in a couple of videos. So for example, making sure that I've said make sure you're within 100 blocks, etc. Well, now I've been doing some testing and found out exactly how many blocks and how it all works. So that's what the secret to this grid pattern is. So if you already know how chunks work and chunk aligning and all that, then continue with this. If not, go and watch my video on what chunks are and how they work. So what we need to know is what chunk we are in. So you find your chunk borders, and I'm going to call this home chunk. Now, for the updates, it doesn't matter where you are in this chunk as long as you are in this chunk. If you move to this chunk, then the entire grid shifts over by one chunk. Right? So the update distance doesn't actually matter exactly where you are, in the same way that, say, mob spawning works. It's based on chunks. So I'm assuming for this that you are in the default for render chunk distance. And if you're not sure, let's go into settings, and we've got simulation distance for chunks. That's going to be the default in most builds. If you have a different simulation distance, then your calculation is going to be different from that. So what do I actually mean? So the way that the game works, and to kind of save on computing resources, it will only update things within this purple area, so the outside boundary of this purple area. That's where it's going to do your updates. Let me show you real quick what that looks like. So if we put a bit of bamboo, let's put it right here, and I could put it on the far corner, but there's wool there. Now let's put this on here. So this is a chunk outside the purple line. This is a chunk, so the purple line is on the inside boundary of the chunk, just to show you real quickly. So we got our boundary here for the chunk. And if you don't know what that was, go and see my video on chunks. So we have bamboo here and here, and just for the sake of demonstration, we'll put some bamboo right here and here and here. Okay, so we remember these. Now if we go back into our home chunk here, and it doesn't matter where we are inside this white line. It also doesn't matter how high we are, just as long as we are within this white line. So I'm going to change the tick speed. And the tick speed basically is how often things update. So it's how fast grass grows, or how fast, in this case, bamboo grows. So we go back. Now we'll see. So we can see the bamboo outside the area, but it's just not growing. But it is growing inside the purple at its random speeds. I'll leave it to run for a few more seconds, and you can see nothing is happening on the outside of that purple line. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at it or not looking at it. What matters is that you're within the area. So if I was to move into that chunk there bounded by the yellow, then that would make the bamboo grow on the far side. Let me just change it to day so that it keeps growing. Right, so that bamboo over there isn't growing. As soon as I move past this block here, you watch, it's going to start to grow. There we go. So now that's growing too, and these ones have grown to their full height. But if I move back over into this white ring, that's not going to grow anymore. Okay, let me turn back the tick speed. Oops. And let's go and investigate. So you see these ones all grew up and these ones didn't until we moved into that area. Now for demonstration, let's put a couple more on. And let's put some over here. Go back and run that experiment again. And this time I won't move into the next chunk. The reason I'm using bamboo is because it grows very quickly and grows quite tall, so you can clearly see the difference between it growing and not growing. Now this doesn't actually matter whether your render distance is high like mine is. I've got a pretty beefy computer, so my render distance is high. You may not even be able to, you probably should be able to see it at least that far from if you're on a tablet or a lower end device, or if your render distance is down quite low. Let's stop that. So now we can see it wasn't just that we were looking at it and not moving. So it's literally nothing's growing through here. So let's clean this up. All right, and I'll show you a demonstration that really hit home for me. So we're going to pillar up. And we're going to release some lava, and you'll see that it remains suspended. So, yep. So once we go over here into our home chunk, there we go. So that lava just stays there. Right? It doesn't move. As soon as we, let's drop down so that we can get our bearings. So that lava is not moving at all. But watch what happens when we move into the grid area near it. Now it starts to fall. And the reason I'm using lava is because it moves slow enough so that we can see the difference. But if I back up and into our white area, now it stops moving. Crazy, hey? So I can move into this one and it'll start moving, move back down here and it will stop moving. It doesn't matter where I am in here, doesn't matter where I am in this one, it will keep moving because I'm within the render distance, not render distance, I'm within the update distance. So over here, it works, over here, does not work. Crazy, hey? All right, so this is useful for your farms. So crops will grow inside this purple area, and trees will decay. For example, if you shear your sheep, then if they're outside the purple area, they're not going to be able to eat and grow back their wool, so they've got to be within there. And the way that you figure out where this purple area is, so you have your home chunk, and maybe you build your home base in this chunk here. Doesn't matter how deep or how high, like I said, but if you have all your workstations and enchanting tables and all that within this chunk here, then you can calculate. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 chunks, and then there's a chunk on either side of that one, and then we have diagonal 2, 3, and then we have the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this pattern here of you go out 4 chunks, not including your home chunk, 4 chunks away from your home chunk, and then 1 on either side. You can maybe mark it out with blocks or torches or something. The thing is though, you can still see what's going on the far side. So if I was to get some, let's say, sea lanterns, you can still see these sea lanterns outside the chunks. Let's go here. That's inside the area. This is outside the area. We can even go a bit further. If we go back to our home chunk, so you can still see all 3 of these, right? But nothing's going to update on the ones that are outside the chunk area, the update area, let's call it. So we've got our home chunk and we've got our update area, 2 on either side, and then diagonally 2 on either side, diagonally, etc. See, that still hasn't fallen. Crazy. Now, well, let's finish off that experiment. We'll need an empty bucket to collect the lava. Oops, just a bucket. Now let's go and collect that lava. And skedaddle back quick. So we're back in our home chunk. And look, it's not falling down here, it's not falling down there, but if we go here, the whole thing's going to start to shift down. We can stop it. I'll make it keep going. Oh no, don't burn my wool. And then the top is going to drop down. And we can stop it right at this point here. So it's basically disappeared, but it hasn't. Now let's let it go. Goodbye, lava. So to demonstrate that height doesn't actually matter for these updates, I have built 2 blocks up in the sky. So we're currently at -60, and these blocks are at +50. So they're, what's that, 110 blocks away. So, you know, it should be well and truly outside the range if height mattered. So I'm gonna plant a couple of bamboo on here. So this one here is inside the spawn radius, and I'll mark this with a sea lantern. Which one that one is, and this one is outside the spawn radius, so we'll mark this with a with glowstone. Okay, so sea lantern inside, glowstone outside. Oops. Basically what we expect to happen is that when we run it, we are expecting that the sea lantern ones will grow and the glowstone ones will not. So let's go back to home. Let's go back to home chunk. And we're sitting on the ground, so we're 110 blocks vertically away from those. Let's pump up our random tick speed. We can't even see what's going on up there. We're just hoping that it's working. Let's put that one there just so that we have a reference. Yeah, man. There we go, that's better. Alright, I think that's long enough. Change the random tick speed back to 1. And let's go investigate. So remember, the sea lantern one should have bamboo growing on it, and the glowstone should still be in the initial stage. And that's exactly what has happened. So these have grown quite tall, so it's not like there's a slowing down effect. But these ones haven't grown at all, and these ones have. So you can see from the shadow that these ones here are outside our purple area that we designated was the update area. Well, we didn't designate it, that's just where we measured the update area to be, away from our white home chunk. And this one here, you can see the shadow on that one was inside the chunk. So depth doesn't matter. The same thing would happen if we were standing up here and put the bamboo on the ground. You can go from bedrock to height limit. It actually works on, so the updating actually works on a chunk by chunk basis. So how does this work if you don't want to find or can't be bothered finding your chunk boundaries? So in terms of actual calculation, we're going to have four chunks away from your current one. So I guess the minimum distance that's going to be, because remember, you can be anywhere inside this home chunk. So the minimum update distance is going to be 65 blocks away, because 16 times 4 is 64. And I guess the maximum is going to be right on this boundary here, which is going to be 80 blocks away, because 16 times 5 is 80. So essentially, if you are within, let's call it 65 to 80 blocks, then you'll be completely fine. If you want to make sure that you're fine, then within 65 blocks. So I think in future farm videos, instead of saying make sure you're within 100 blocks, I should start saying make sure you are within 64 blocks. So if you're within 65 blocks, then you're all good for sure. Anything more than 80 blocks away, and you're going to lose the update distance in that direction. So I hope you have found this useful. Use this with all your builds and farms, and make sure that they're within at least 64 blocks of, 64 blocks, not 64 chunks. That's what I was thinking. So I hope you found this useful in the way that Minecraft Bedrock Edition updates the blocks around you. Use this for planning out where you're going to have farms and trees and all that kind of stuff, tree farms. And I will see you in the next one.